anime dropped this year, number 52, a playthrough of a certain dude's VR MMO life. One episode watched, 3 out of 10. This is a show where there was nothing egregiously bad about it, just little things that all added up to the whole thing being a complete mess when you stop to actually think about it all. Which might perhaps be passable if it was in any way entertaining, but I felt myself slipping into a zoned out state of boredom while I was watching. Certainly not ideal, but the show is inoffensive, at least. Perhaps the funniest thing about this one is that it was so obviously made by someone who doesn't actually play MMOs and was just making use of all the tropes that light novels have been endlessly recycling in an insane anime Ouroboros. And that's coming from someone who doesn't even play them. If my MMO avoidant ass can tell a writer doesn't know anything about them, you know it's handled poorly. For example, you have the main character getting pushed down and bullied for not having a player character spec'd out to the meta of a game that's just launched that day. You know, one that hasn't had time to form a proper meta, even if it did have a beta period, because one would expect changes between a beta and a full launch. This same bully comes back at the end of the episode and has to formally request PvP within the game system, leading to the question of how physical bullying happened earlier. This fight is won by the player character in a single shot, which, honest to God, gets a "then everybody clapped" moment from onlookers. On top of this, the main character is basically playing a stealth archer, and the idea that his class is made of useless skills, which is laughable given how much of an archetype that is in gaming. Oh, and those useless crafting skills that he chose make him super popular with everyone because the shops have artificial scarcity built into them for some reason. Oh wow, player-done cooking is so much better than the stuff generated by shops? It's almost like that's been a light novel and anime trope for over a decade now. It's not some grand revelation in your plot anymore. I'm not even going to start in on the whole VR players being able to actually taste and smell food thing. Not to mention the way that MMO cooking is something that players would definitely be intensely invested in as a system in a game, not something entirely ignored by the player base except for this one guy. On top of all that, the characters between this are all bland and boring, the animation is nothing to write home about and can actually look pretty bad at times, and the pacing is pretty bad, with a dose of the main character basically narrating everything he does sprinkled on top.